I was 32 years old when I finally understood that my mother didn't love money more than me. She loved control. I lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, in a rented duplex with thin walls and a heating system that knocked like it was angry every winter. I worked as a senior financial operations manager for a regional logistics firm. Stable, unglamorous, numbers-heavy work that rewarded precision and silence. I'd been divorced for 3 years, no kids, no dramatic social life. On paper, I was fine. In my family's language, that translated to disappointing but useful. My mother, Diane, lived 40 minutes away in a gated community with a lake she never swam in and a country club she never stopped mentioning. From the outside, she looked like a woman who had done everything right. Widow at 51. Immaculate house. Lexus SUV. Weekly lunches with friends who use words like portfolio and wellness retreat. What no one ever asked was how she afforded it. And for a long time, I didn't either. Growing up, my mother had always framed herself as the provider, the martyr, the authority. My father died suddenly when I was 17, an aneurysm that collapsed our world in one phone call. After that, Diane stepped into something sharper than grief. She became absolute. I gave up everything for you, she reminded me constantly. You don't know how hard I've worked, she said whenever I disagreed. Without me, you'd have nothing, was her favorite. It sounded like parental pride. It felt like a leash. At first, the red flags were subtle. She insisted on being on my bank account in case of emergencies, even after I got my first real job. She discouraged me from moving cities for promotions, warning me I'd lose my support system. When I bought my first car, she negotiated the loan herself and kept the paperwork. You're not good with this stuff, she said, smiling like she was doing me a favor. I believed her longer than I want to admit. By my mid-20s, the imbalance was obvious. She knew how much I earned down to the dollar. She commented on my spending. She guilt me into helping out when unexpected expenses came up. At first it was small, covering a deductible, fronting a vacation deposit she'd pay back next month. She never did, but she always had a reason. The market dipped. My friend's husband is sick. You don't want me stressed, do you? Every conversation circled back to money, not as a shared resource, but as proof of loyalty. When I hesitated, she'd go quiet, withdraw affection, cancel plans, mention how lonely she was, how other daughters were more grateful. If you've ever been underestimated, let me know in the comments. Because that's what she did best, made me feel small while convincing everyone else she was generous. The real shift happened after my divorce. My ex-husband, Mark, had been charming, ambitious, and financially reckless. He liked appearances. I liked spreadsheets. When a marriage collapsed under the weight of his hidden debts, my mother didn't console me. She evaluated me. Well, she said over coffee 2 weeks after the papers were signed, this is what happens when women don't listen. That was the first time she offered me what she called structure. She suggested I consolidate my finances. Let her help me rebuild. She introduced me to her financial advisor, a man named Harold who spoke slowly and never looked directly at me. She encouraged me to move some of my savings into safer instruments she trusted. When I hesitated, she leaned in. Don't be proud, she said. I know more than you. I didn't do everything she suggested, but I did enough. I authorized limited access. I co-signed a line of credit. I let her frame it as mutual support. That was my mistake. Within a year, the exploitation escalated. She started asking for monthly temporary transfers. The amounts grew. She stopped asking and started assuming. When I questioned her, she became offended. After everything I've done for you, she spoke as if she still paid my rent, as if my career existed because of her. The strangest part was her lifestyle inflation. New furniture appeared, then renovations, then a European cruise with friends she barely liked. She posted photos online with captions about finally enjoying life. I remember sitting in my duplex, scrolling through pictures of her on a yacht, while calculating whether I could afford to replace my failing water heater. Something didn't add up. I told myself not to be suspicious, that she must have savings I didn't know about, that I was being petty. But I work in finance. Numbers leave patterns. The discovery came by accident. One evening, While reconciling my year-end statements, I noticed a recurring ACH withdrawal I didn't recognize. It wasn't one of the transfers I'd authorized. The descriptor was vague, an LLC name that meant nothing to me. The amounts were irregular, but significant. I froze that I pulled older statements. The same withdrawals appeared, stretching back nearly 18 months. My hand shook as I logged into the shared account portal, the one she'd insisted on setting up for convenience. There were transactions I had never seen. Transfers routed through intermediary accounts. Credit utilization spikes that didn't match my spending. Someone was using my financial identity as infrastructure. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I built a spreadsheet. I traced flows, mapped dates, cross-referenced with her travel photos. The timing aligned too cleanly to be coincidence. Payments left my accounts days before her major expenses. My credit line spiked before her renovations. By morning, the conclusion was unavoidable. I wasn't helping her. I was funding her. The confrontation happened 3 days later in her kitchen, a space designed to intimidate. Marble countertops, soft lighting, no visible clutter. She poured tea as if we were discussing weather. I've noticed some discrepancies, I said carefully. She didn't look up. You always overthink. I want to understand why there are withdrawals I didn't authorize. She smiled then, a practiced, patient smile. You agreed to support me, she said. This is support. Not like this. Her eyes hardened. Be careful. I slid the printed statements across the counter. You used my credit. Without telling me. She finally looked at the papers. Then at me. Then she laughed. Oh, sweetheart, she said. It's all within the family. That was the moment something inside me broke. She didn't deny it. She reframed it. You owe me, she continued calmly. Everything you have exists because of me. Your education. Your stability. I made sacrifices you'll never understand. I didn't agree to this, I said. You don't get to revoke generosity when it's inconvenient, she replied. When I stood to leave, she delivered the line that would echo in my head for months. Don't bite the hand that holds you up. I walked out shaking. The emotional low point came fast and deep. Within weeks, she tightened her grip. She hinted that she could call on the credit line, that she could clarify things with Harold, that she had records too. While I pushed back, she told relatives I was unstable, ungrateful, struggling financially. The humiliation was quiet but pervasive. Family gatherings became interrogations. Cousins offered unsolicited advice. My mother watched, serene, as if she were conducting an orchestra. No one deserves to feel invisible in their own family. I stopped attending holidays. I cried in my car after work. I considered draining my accounts and disappearing. But that would confirm her narrative. What happened next changed everything. I didn't confront her again. I prepared. I separated finances she couldn't see. I consulted an attorney under the guise of estate planning. I requested my full credit report and froze new lines. I documented everything, timestamps, emails, transaction histories. I learned terms I'd never needed personally: fiduciary abuse, unauthorized use, coercive control. And I waited, because the truth was, my mother thought she was untouchable. She believed money made her powerful. She never considered where it actually came from. Tell me where you're listening from. The cliffhanger arrived in the form of a letter. A certified envelope addressed to her arrived at my duplex, forwarded automatically through a mailing address she'd once used for temporary reasons. The return address belonged to a financial institution I knew very well. Inside was a notice of inquiry. Not an accusation. Not yet. But a question. One that would force her to explain how she'd been living so comfortably on income she couldn't legally claim. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't trapped. I was holding the lever. The letter sat on my kitchen table for a full day before I opened it again. I already knew what it meant, but knowing something intellectually and understanding its weight are different experiences. The paper was thick, the language formal. It wasn't an accusation. It was worse. It was an inquiry, polite, procedural, unavoidable. A financial institution requesting clarification on funds routed through accounts associated with my mother's name, but not her income profile. In plain terms, someone had noticed. And once institutions start noticing, the process doesn't stop because of charm or family hierarchy. I didn't rush. That was the most important decision I made. For years, my mother had trained me to react emotionally, defensive, apologetic, hurried. This time, I did the opposite. I scheduled consultations. 3 of them. A forensic accountant, a financial abuse attorney, and a credit risk specialist recommended quietly by a colleague who didn't ask questions. Each meeting confirmed the same thing. What my mother had done wasn't just unethical. It was actionable. The attorney was careful with language. "This isn't about revenge," she said, sliding my documents back across the table. "It's about control through financial dependency. And the fact that she assumed you wouldn't understand, that is significant." I almost laughed at that. The strategy wasn't dramatic. It was precise. We didn't confront. We didn't warn. We let systems do what systems are designed to do. First, I formally revoked all shared access, citing internal compliance review. That triggered notifications. Then I submitted my own statement to the institution that sent the inquiry, factual, unemotional, documented. I didn't accuse my mother directly. I clarified that I had not authorized several transactions and was seeking guidance. That single step shifted the narrative. Suddenly, I wasn't a difficult daughter. I was a client raising a compliance issue. My mother, meanwhile, remained blissfully confident. She called me 2 days later, cheerful. "I'm hosting a small dinner Friday," she said. "You should come. It's time you stopped isolating yourself." Her voice was warm, maternal, commanding. I agreed. Not because I wanted reconciliation, because I understood timing. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing. The pressure built quietly. Her bank requested documentation. Her advisor asked questions she wasn't prepared for. The line of credit she'd been leveraging tightened. Not closed, just reviewed. She didn't panic at first. She blamed bureaucracy. Then she blamed me. "You've always been anxious about money," she said over the phone. "This is why I manage things." I let her talk. Behind the scenes, the forensic accountant mapped the flow of funds clearly enough that even a casual reviewer could follow it. Transfers from my accounts, routed through an LLC she controlled, used for personal expenses, declared nowhere. The legal term was misappropriation. The emotional term was betrayal. The confrontation didn't happen in her kitchen. It happened in a conference room. The institution requested a joint meeting to clarify discrepancies. Neutral language, polite tone, mandatory attendance. My mother arrived immaculate. Tailored blazer, confident posture. She smiled at everyone like she was hosting. I arrived with a binder. She didn't notice it at first. The compliance officer spoke gently, asked standard questions. My mother answered smoothly. She framed the transfers as family support, temporary loans, shared assets. Then the accountant asked her to explain why the funds were routed through accounts solely in my name before being moved to hers. The room shifted. Her smile tightened. "That was just how we structured it," she said. "For convenience." "And the lack of written authorization?" the officer asked. She glanced at me then, sharp warning. I met her eyes and said nothing. The binder came out. Transaction logs, authorization records, email excerpts, credit agreements, timelines. One by one, the assumptions she'd built her confidence on collapsed. The legal twist wasn't dramatic. It was devastatingly simple. By using my credit and income profile without documented consent, she had exposed herself to liability. By failing to declare the funds appropriately, she had triggered a separate review. She tried to pivot, claimed misunderstanding, maternal obligation, emotional appeal. The room didn't respond. Institutions don't respond to guilt. They respond to documentation. The power shift happened quietly. Her voice grew smaller. Her posture changed. She asked for breaks she wasn't given. When a meeting ended, the compliance officer turned to me. "Thank you for bringing this forward," he said. "We'll be in touch." My mother didn't speak to me as we walked out. Outside, in the parking lot, she finally turned. "You did this," she said, not angry, afraid. "I stopped it," I replied. "Would you have handled this differently?" The aftermath wasn't explosive. It was cold. Her accounts were restricted pending review. The credit line was frozen. The advisor distanced himself. Friends noticed changes. Invitations slowed. The lifestyle she'd built on invisible scaffolding began to shrink. She tried once more to regain control through emotion. "I was only trying to help us both," she said in a voicemail. "You didn't have to humiliate me." I never replied. The final resolution came months later through formal channels. Funds were reclassified, liabilities assigned. No courtroom drama, no public spectacle, just consequences. I paid down what was mine. She faced what was hers. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't managing her emotions. I was managing my own future. We don't speak now, not because I'm angry, because distance is clarity. Sometimes walking away is the strongest move you can make. What I learned wasn't that money corrupts. It's that money reveals. And once you see the truth of who's actually funding someone's power, you can decide whether you want to keep paying for your own silence. I don't, and I never will again.